Sometimes when we begin to question our faith or have doubts about our tradition, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert. When we take a step back and honestly evaluate organized religion in the 21st century, many times it doesn't make any sense. The more we cling to it and try to save it, the worse it becomes. In addition, widespread abuse, cover-ups, and victim shaming cause some of us to question whether it will ever be right again.
The Desert Sanctuary was created by Karl and Laura Forehand. It consists of a podcast, a blog, along with Karl and Laura's writing.
We're happy you're here. Welcome to the show. Hi, welcome to the Desert Sanctuary. We are glad to be here this morning. It is I guess it's like Saturday afternoon, but anyway, glad to be here nonetheless. I'm not only here with Karl Forehand, but also with two of our co-hosts, which we're so excited to have today, Kyle Butler and Aaron Tomlinson. So how is everybody doing?
Doing good.
Like three heads nod and no one's saying anything.
Nobody's saying anything. It's a slow Saturday.
Yes, it is.
Kyle seems to be revved up. The rest of us are dragging. We just had a heavy breakfast in Auburn, Nebraska. It's fall and the temperatures
dropping a little bit. Yeah.
So we're all kind of a little bit lazy today, right?
Yep.
So I wanted to tell you, though, about my night today. Tonight I'm going to see Kebmo. I don't know if anybody knows Kebmo. Kebmo is a Delta blues guy. And my daughters bought me for Father's Day tickets to this. And so my youngest daughter and I are going to drive 3.5 hours this afternoon to go see Kebmo in person, and then drive back in the middle of the night. So that'll be fun. Anyway, we've been on the Desert Sanctuary interviewing women almost exclusively, and today we have our guys back with us, and I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
Kind of missed doing this. It's been a while. The stroke kind of messed it up, and everything got off whack. But tell us what's going on in you guys' life. What's new, what's happening that's different that people might want to know about.
Go ahead, Kyle. You go first.
Okay. Well, some of you may remember from some of the previous episodes, I was going through a very intense and deep healing from some unknown and maybe forgotten trauma triggered by a life situation about 1.5 years ago now. And so I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and kind of feeling some of the warmth of that light. And I'm finding parts of myself that had long forgotten or overlooked or just ignored. My optimism is returning back in a more authentic way, not just from the hallelujah anyhow kind of way, but a real authentic optimism and enthusiasm about life, the way I remember I used to have it, with this tremendous amount of possibility. And there's a lot of excitement right now too, because with all of this, finding myself and dedicating myself to me, I said, I have nothing to lose. So I'm going to bet everything on me for the first time in my life and see where this goes, because I've got nothing to lose. I've already tried the other way. It didn't work. So here I am.
Yeah.
That's cool. I would say the same thing. I think my optimism is coming back. Not that I, was pessimistic. I wouldn't say that, but just kind of going through the motions of life. Just kind of like every day was Groundhog Day, with the old movie I hate to say old movie now, but I got to date myself with Bill Murray, Groundhog Day, where he's reliving the same day over and over again. And just kind of been in that rut really since the pandemic, I think, just kind of, existing and doing life and doing what's necessary. And I think one of the challenges that I had going through deconstruction, what was really important to me, what kept me going in the past, was just the sense of purpose that I had, albeit misguided, whatever it was, but really felt, that every day I had this sense of being a part of something bigger than myself and sense of purpose, and kind of lost that, when you deconstruct, your whole identity kind of shifts and changes. And so I think one of the challenges for me has been finding that motivation and purpose beyond just, raising a family and going to work. And last couple of weeks, I've kind of shifted that a little bit. So I don't know exactly where that's going, but I know that I feel a lot, like Kyle said, just a lot more optimistic and upbeat and more excited about life in the future than I have been in probably since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the pandemic's over, but since that horrible year of 2020 where we all fell into the wormhole in the multiverse,
Yeah.
So did you guys do anything in particular to, I guess, have this resurgence of yourself? Like you were just talking about Aaron, coming out of that. Like, was there anything in particular that because I can relate to that, I think, in a way. I can relate to the kind of being in that Groundhog Day mentality. So was there anything, I don't know, you can't put your finger on it, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. I think so, Laura. I think, the whole deconstruction process is very analytical, or at least it was for me. You believe the Bible is the word of God and the absolute truth and all of that. And so I really did have a heart all along for truth. And so as I started, researching more with the internet and stuff, more information becomes available. And so it's kind of been that deconstruction process has been what's objectively true, what's not objectively true. And I've started to look at my beliefs differently, and more from the standpoint of just letting all that go and thinking about what beliefs are going to serve me, if that makes sense. Like, it's not really important, is this objectively true? Because so much of the stuff that we, talk about or think about, sometimes it's not very objective. It's very slippery, if you know what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. And so I've started to kind of go back to what from my former life worked well for me and served me and what didn't. And then being able to go back and adopt some of those beliefs and sort of try them on, if that makes sense, has really been helpful.
Gotcha. Thanks. What about you, Kyle? Can you pinpoint anything, or is it, I hate to put you on the spot because
no
sometimes
problem.
It's hard to articulate these kind of things,
Yeah.
So.
I think it was it was a few things probably. The deconstruction, I think that's been a long ongoing process, probably started in about 2009. And along the way, I just was willing to open myself up to more of it. But for me, I think more specifically, it's been what's happened to me over the last year and a few months now, just being so intentional about going within and being intentional about the healing process that was so very long overdue for me. Because, I always been a positive, optimistic person, but when you put on that mask, that can still shine through it a little bit, but not authentically. Because it's almost trained behavior too, right? So, sure. You train yourself to be optimistic and positive. And so, although I never really lost it, it wasn't always authentic, because I would say the optimistic things and the positive things, but inside I'm like, God, where the hell are you? Like, like whenever will you do something that these promises are connected to, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yep.
And of course you can never really express that out loud because people are listening, people are watching, and you're a leader. And if you lose hope, then everyone else is going to lose hope. So, their hope is tied to your hope and that whole thing. So the deconstruction process, now that it's in such a phase where religion is kind of non-existent to me, but then doing this inner work, pulling me out of me and letting me come to the forefront and forsaking all others. I think that has helped me be who I came here to be, this positive, optimistic, happy person who just chooses to see things the way he chooses to see things.
So Kyle, can I ask you a question? What does that process of inner work look like specifically? Like, because if somebody's listening to that and they say, I want to do that inner work, but what does that mean? How does that work inside of you, and what does that look like?
Well, I do say this, for me, it was very dark. It was very dark. It was very painful. It was very hard, especially in the beginning. It was very hard because it was triggered by a painful moment which made me say to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be this way anymore. I don't want this anymore. And the inquisitive person in me wanted to know why I had come to this place, why I had come to these behaviors, why I had landed here for so long. I knew it wasn't me. It wasn't my personality, my character, my nature, my heart, but I was doing it, and I was doing it successfully for a long time. And I needed to know why. And then that question, why, which I knew that I had inside, and I needed to find it inside. So I just asked myself to show me. And I didn't really know what that process was going to be like, but what it was little by little, one by one, trauma after trauma, pain after pain, hurt after hurt, issue after issue started coming to the surface. And then when each came to the surface, I had to deal with it. And then I would need answers as to why things happen. And because this process is happening in me and all around me, people like my mother and different people that were close to me, they would be talking to me and they would say something, and they would say something, and I'd say, that's it. That's why this, when my mother was telling me about her heavy trauma of not her rejecting me, not her not wanting me. It wasn't her, but my grandmother, and that heavy influence that grandmother had over my mother. She wanted to get rid of me. She didn't want me. She pressured my mother, and there was all of this pressure to get rid of me. And although my mother wanted me, she didn't want me to, be aborted. My grandmother's pressure was almost overwhelming to the point that she even tried it twice. So then when my mother's telling me this story, which I'm hearing for the first time, I'm like, that's why I've never felt accepted. That's why I've never felt like I belonged. You were carrying this trauma inside of you. I've always felt this way all my life, thought I was maybe crazy, but now here's the answer. So when that answer comes out, I'm able to now, okay, it's not me. Yeah, I'm not the problem. Okay. I'm just carrying some bad energy that was transferred through her during my time in her. So it's stuff like that, and then I go, okay, so it was step after step after step, and these things came to light. And then I started having these aha moments where, okay, now I feel myself again and I see myself again. So it's very hard at times, very painful at times, very dark at times. You feel like you don't want to do it anymore because it hurts so bad. But there was still that instinctive knowing that you've got to do this, because I started thinking about the future. I started thinking about my family one day. And I didn't want to rob from them me. And I wanted them to be able to experience the me I knew that I am. And I wanted to be part of the memories that we would create as a family. I didn't want to check out of these moments like I would do in the past. So I was thinking about them. I was thinking about me, and I just plowed through it. And I feel like it was the best decision ever made, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
So I wanted to go back to something that you said, Kyle, about carrying bad energy. I want to validate that, because I am on the leadership team at my school, and we are currently going through trauma informed instruction in the classroom, because we know that there's because of the pandemic and all that, we have a lot of kids that have a lot of trauma when they come to us. But something that was said, this was just on Thursday, something that was said was that in utero, if mom is carrying a lot of trauma, that absolutely transfers to that baby. So that when you said that really struck me, that how many of us, not necessarily because of a pregnancy or whatever, are carrying around bad energy, but that's that was really powerful when you said that, because I was like, yeah, I just heard that. Have you been able to, kind of open up to family and?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, have you guys been making connections on some of this stuff to where there's some healing taking place?
Yeah. Yeah. Part of my instinct of knowing I needed to go inside, that I had the answers inside. I also knew that I needed to talk, and I started opening up to family and my mom and my sisters. And it was very hard to tell them some of these darker things, and I didn't know how they would look at me, because they always looked at me as the big brother, the honorable, good man, all these things. The pastor, the leaders, in that way. And I didn't know how I can tell them these things that were these dark parts of me that I hidden so well. But to my surprise, and maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but they opened their arms and said, "Brother, we love you no matter what," and it's unconditional love. And they were here for me. They would call me every day, and they would let me talk about the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And they never got tired, and they never told me to stop. And I can call them right now and tell them about what I was feeling last night, and they would listen to me like it's the first time they heard it, So it was a lot of that. And I was never harmed by them. My sisters, my mom, in some ways, kind of inadvertently. My father, who was her husband, most certainly, I think he did it intentionally. I don't know, but that's just my call on it. But he's not here to talk about those things, right? So I have to talk about his impact to my mom, because she's the closest connection. And, but I think it's been helpful for her too, because I don't know if she really realized the impact he had on us and the damage he had caused us. I don't, because my mom, she, I love her, but she would, I think, to deal with the trauma she was dealing with, she lost herself in Jesus. And in that mindset, she lost touch of reality in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I think hearing it now, because she's not so Jesus-fied as she used to be, I think it's important that she hears these things. And she's been gracious to hear us talk through these things. And we don't want to hurt her, but some of these things brought hurt because we're hurt, and now she's hurt because of the impact these things had on us. And we say, sure, Mom, we're not saying you failed or you didn't do the best you could. We're just saying this is a result of what happened, Right. So right. It's been healing for all of us in many ways, because I get to hear my sisters also open up more about some of the things they endured. And it's been we're a very loving family. I mean, we love each other. We really do. And we're here for one another. We will always be here for one another. And, excuse me what I'm about to say, but fuck with one of us and you got the whole clan to deal with. Right. That's just the way that goes down. The whole clan. You just, I don't know what to tell you. You shouldn't have did it. That's all I'm gonna tell you. You shouldn't have did it.
I think that as you were talking, and maybe you can relate to this too, Aaron, but I think that that bravery, that courage you had to, and I'm sure it was very scary and intimidating when you first kind of came forward, but to think that bravery and that courage then opened up healing for other members of your family. So Aaron, have you experienced that as well? I feel like when I opened up a little bit to one of my sisters, I'll just speak of one of them, that we've been able to have these really rich and deep conversations about the past and how we were wounded by religion or family or whatever. And so it's been really healing. But so I love that you shared that with us, Kyle. Have you had any kind of experience like that, Aaron? I'm just curious. These are questions just off the top of my head. So. Yeah, no,
it's cool. Thanks for asking. And I'm wondering how much I should share. I think that in my case, there have been members of my family that I could open up to, but I really played the role of, how do I say this? And this is just my perception, so I don't want to speak for anyone in my family, but sure. I think I played the role of sort of the family rock. Like, I can think of various different crises that everybody went through, and I was always there, always kind of the person that they looked to for, you know, guidance or strength or whatever. So, and you know, we were raised, obviously, you know, like Kyle, we were raised, my mom, you know, wasn't radically religious by any means, but, you know, I would say I came to Jesus through a drug problem. I mean, she drug us to church and drug us to Sunday school and vacation Bible school. And so when I think my issue with Christianity in general, and even some alternative forms of spirituality, is it's so dehumanizing. You feel guilty for being human. And for, you know, having weakness or showing weakness or having trauma or having dark parts of yourself or having issues that manifest in unhealthy ways that you need to correct. And so I think when I started to take the mask off, it did not go over well. I'll just say that.
Okay. Yeah. And it doesn't always.
I couldn't be that person anymore. And so that was, you know, it was a shock. So
I get that. Yeah.
Not really. I really have to tell Kyle how fortunate he is that he's able to have those kinds of talks with people in his family and have people that love him enough to sit and listen and even care and not get mad at him and reject him.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I say, like, I have one sister that I've been able to open up to, and the other one, we can't go there. So I get both sides of that for sure. Thanks for sharing that, though.
One of the things Kyle said was, most of my family would bypass it as quick as they could and get away from it, because I'm keying in on another thing Kyle said. He said, I had to feel it. You threw that in there. It was right in the middle of everything you said. He said, I had to feel it. I think that's so important, because what's unfelt is unchanged. Until we feel it, it doesn't change. And so we had this kind of question we were trying to toss up today, and we were going to do dad jokes. We will probably do those at the end, but we kind of dove in here a little quick, which is fine. But the question was kind of, okay, we're going through this journey of healing and deconstruction and evolving, changing. So some people would say, we have a friend that says my life is measurably better in every single way. And not all of us can say that, right? Because a lot of us took a huge pay cut. Our life is in many ways much harder. For me right now, working at a customer service thing, having a stroke, all those things are harder. They're not easier. And my life is not smoother. It's harder. And I think you have to feel that. We have words like gratitude and acceptance, but when we were inside of religion, those words were abused. And Aaron kind of alluded to that a little bit ago. They were kind of abused. Just be thankful. Be thankful this didn't, something worse didn't happen to you. And they bypass over that. But, in abundance thinking, gratitude is really important. And so now I have to learn to be grateful and genuinely grateful at a deep, true level. But sometimes that's while I'm feeling pain, while I'm healing. And it's not always comfortable, and it's not gratitude that my life's easy or pretending like my life's easy. It's feeling all of that, right? And so then acceptance is not ignoring what's happening or excusing it away or saying it's for a purpose or any of those things, but it's just saying, this is how it is. This is how I feel. This I'm going through, and some of it's really, really hard. Does that make any sense? Because the question is kind of, how do we live? How do we thrive when honestly, to get better and to heal is challenging, right?
Yeah.
So maybe start with Aaron. Aaron, can you respond to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. What bubbles up for me is I do think what's attractive about religion for a lot of people is it provides a sense of control or a mechanism of control over things we can't control. I think that's where the spiritual bypassing comes from. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned, physical ailments, strokes, things like that, the uncertainty of life. Life is crazy. I mean, it's so weird because none of us has a crystal ball, and I try to remind people that when they're anxious, like, half the stuff you're worrying about, you're trying to predict the future, and your track record probably sucks like mine does. But I think we try to control or have some sense of control and power if we believe, well, God's watching over us, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I know for me, certainly, and I came from more of the faith movement, so it's a lot different than like Baptist background and stuff. And I'm not really sure, Kyle, what your background was before, but in the faith movement, if you just believe it, you claim the promise, you speak right, then you stay in control of everything. No harm shall befall you, no sickness or disease shall come nigh your dwelling. But the thing about trying to control life is, not only is it a really tense way to live, but it's kind of boring after a while, to be honest. And I think Kyle said something really powerful I'll probably be thinking about this all day. I just love this, where, what motivated you, Kyle, was you wanted to make sure that your family got you, that they weren't robbed of you. I just love how you framed that and how you said that. Mm-hmm. And basically what I heard you say in that is, I want to show up for everything in my life. And there's something freeing, for me at least, when I was able to just let go of trying to control life through my prayers and my faith and all this stuff I was doing, and just let life open up to me. Mm-hmm. And so there's an openness, there's a vulnerability of just opening up to life and letting life open up to you, and then showing up for all of it, showing up for the good times and the bad, embracing, I guess I would say, the human experience. And that's what I find so interesting about, because of my background, I wasn't willing to just throw out all spirituality and be an atheist. I tell people, if I was going to be an atheist, I'd have to deny myself. And that's what I'm trying not to do. But I explored various different paths. And the interesting thing about it is, it seems like everybody's trying to get out of the human experience. Mm. And, there's a lot of frameworks out there that say, we were one with God, or one with source, or the creator, or whatever. And then we came here, and then the goal is to reconnect with that, or reascend into that. And it's like, well, then why the hell did we come? Like, we had that, So we're here to have this human experience, and yet everybody's trying to escape it under this guise of spirituality. So I'm trying to find a way to embrace spirituality, maintain the sense of mysticism and being a mystic that I've always had, but at the same time embrace my humanity. Because again, I'm going to go back and say that religion, lots of forms of spirituality, are nothing more than dehumanizing. You feel guilty for being a human. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who is not a Christian, but is into other forms of spirituality, new age spirituality, whatever you want to call it. And I have some health issues that could potentially be a big deal. And I was getting shamed for going to the doctor and told I needed to go to a Joe Dispenza event and get my healing. And that's so dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So even though it's harder, in many ways I can relate to both. In many ways my life's better, in many ways my life's harder than it was, but I'll embrace the hard. I'll embrace the suck, so to speak, because at least I'm a human being.
Mm.
I don't have to try to pretend that I'm super Christian or pastor or whatever. I can be human, and I want to fully embrace my humanity. And even the difficult times, I want to model for my children, showing up for all of it and having the strength, even in the hard times, to embrace it and get through it. So those are my thoughts.
It's really good.
Yes, easier, but at times harder. Because what happened for me is when I started learning about spirituality from a non-Christian perspective, it excited me. Because this person, this 8-year-old little boy still, he's full of all this wonder.
Yeah. And
he lived his life through daydreaming and seeing into his possibility. And that's what kept him going. So he's all about wonder. So one of the things that attracted me to the Christian stories was the elements of faith, because they were full of wonder to me, so that he did that because he did what? He believed, he walked on water. I mean, so that wonder is what, entices me. So when I started learning about spirituality, that wonder started returning. And I'm like, oh boy, I wonder if I can pass through crowds of people. I wonder if I can appear in a room and maybe I can fly and all these kind of things. And I started exploring those possibilities from a spiritual side. But then one day I woke up and realized I'm still a human being. And I'm going to live this journey as a human being. So I've been kind of ditching the quest for being a better spiritualist to just being a better human being, because this is going to be my experience from the human perspective. And I can meditate for a few minutes, but guess what? I come right back to my human experience. Right. Whatever it is, I gotta, this humanity thing. And I like the way Aaron said it. Well, if we're one with God, one source God, whatever before, and, then why are we here? Like, if this whole question just to go back to that, then why this? Why this experience? And I was talking to Derek about this a couple of weeks ago. I was driving and this thought hit me. And I know that people talk about it from different angles, but the way it hit me was, what if we, as the spirit beings that we are, were fascinated with the possibility of having this human experience, solely and purely? I'm just so fascinated to have a human experience. That's really all. And for this time around the block or whatever it is, we just wanted to know what it was like to be human. Mm-hmm. So then I said to Derek, why are we devaluing the human experience for all this spiritual nonsense, if that's why we came here?
Yeah.
So I felt Aaron on that so deeply and connected so much. Maybe a few months ago would have offended me because I was still trying to be spiritual. And privately, I would have been like, he don't know what the hell he talking about. He just mad because he can't do it.
Yeah.
What are those components? So everybody's kind of mentioned being fully human. That was our subtitle. One of the things being human. What are the components of that? How do I be fully human? What is it that makes your life where you're embracing being human? Or how do I do that? Is that a fair question? I mean, maybe it's kind of a shotgun thing. What's one thing that's important to embrace my humanity?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just quickly say for I think it's what you always say, Karl. Just be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be where you are and be who you are. Be present and authentic.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes that takes some digging after you've been enveloped in religion, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, some days I still struggle with, who am I? What does it mean for me just to be? But I agree with you. I'm still trying to figure that out. But
I think sorting through, again, just to bring it back, sorting through the dehumanizing elements of Christianity and spirituality has been really helpful to me. And what I mean by that is, as the general rule, I know I'm speaking very generally, but most faiths and denominations, the whole story of the cross and Jesus dying and for our sins is all based on this idea of Augustine's doctrine of original sin, that we're rotten to the core, or, Paul's writings about walking in the Spirit and not fulfilling the lusts of the flesh. And he gives a whole list, of what these are. And so, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, all that stuff. And the works of the flesh are jealousy and wrath and lust and greed and, all this stuff. And even Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount creates this moral hierarchy for our inner experience. I could never get past Matthew when I was a kid, when I'd read the Bible, because I'd get stuck on this part. I had siblings, and I'd get stuck on this part where Jesus said, you've heard it said, you shall not kill, but I say to you, whoever calls his brother a fool is in danger of hellfire. And, being a live male person,
yeah,
maybe a higher testosterone count. When Jesus said not to look at a woman to lust after her, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. And so if that's your paradigm, then there's something wrong with you if you're not constantly in love, joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Rejoice in tribulation. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, your natural response is not to rejoice in tribulation. And so, and even this is what I find and I totally am with you, Kyle, on the wonder and pursuing spirituality. But when we grade our emotional experiences by high vibration, low vibration, you're high vibrational if you're just full of compassion and love and light, but you're low vibrational if you have a bad day. And that's just part of being human. So being angry is part of being human. It's no better or worse than compassion. It's what you do with that anger. There's a lot of people talk about compassion and service to others. They ain't doing a damn thing but sitting around watching YouTube all day and meditating all day. They're not serving other people. They're not really practically doing anything that's serving other people or it's demonstrating compassion. People that talk about, well, we're just one with everything. And I'm like, well, that must really suck, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of pain in this world.
Yeah.
If you had this experience of oneness, shit, that must really suck for you. So, but you can be angry. You can feel jealousy. You can feel greed or lust or all these things. The question is, what are you doing with it? So on the one side of the coin, you can say, I've got these high vibrational energies, but what are you doing with it? Basically, from my experience, a lot of them are just being assholes. Or you can have these emotional things, allow yourself to have them, allow yourself to feel them, allow yourself to go through the process. And then what are you doing with that? Are you using your anger to harm someone's reputation? Are you using your anger to, just road rage all the time or whatever? Or are you allowing yourself to process and have those feelings and know that that's part of the human experience? And then being able to balance that out so that you don't do harm to yourself and you don't do harm to other people.
That's really good.
Sorry about my language. I can't remember if
that's great.
Okay to cut on Desert Sanctuary.
Yeah, you're free to do that.
Okay.
We went
have
through,
beeps in there,
Nah.
So I think
went through
that's what being human is.
Yeah.
So we went through this. What's it called? An experiential, intense kind of experiential experience, to get rid of shame. And I can't remember the exact word he used for it, but when you come out of it, you develop a contract that basically says, I am. And so it helps root that out. And right after deconstruction, we went through this, and so the things that I came up with is I am a playful, adventurous, mystical man. So those are the three things. But then that other side of me, that side that's been programmed says, well, it's better to be serious, and intense and set on your goals than it is to be playful. And playful is we don't have time for that, right? That was part of my upbringing. But so I tell this joke or this story, I should say a story. I ruin it if I say it's a joke first, right? And sometimes Laura does that too. But so I say, I used to think of my dog as a son, as one of our kids, you say fur babies and things like that. I said, but now I'm starting to think of him more like a brother. So the other day I walked over to him and farted on his head, because that's what you do to your brother. And being playful, for me, may not be the same for everybody, but being playful for me is part of who I am. Deep down, when I am that way, I'm more like myself.
Yeah.
So also there's the adventure. And for 20 years, I was stuck in religion where there's no adventure to religion, right? It's even if we were church planters, we were technically missionaries at the last church, replanting an old church. And we thought of that adventure, but it wasn't very adventurous. Really, it was controlled, like we were talking about before. And so it wasn't allowing me to be who I really am, playful and adventurous. Even though it was challenging, even though it was something not everybody wanted to do, it was still within guidelines, within rules, and highly controlled. So Tyler Perry has a new movie called A Jazz Man's Blues. Laura and I both struggled with it while we were trying to watch it, because we didn't want to sit down and watch it, because there's a lot of pain thing that probably be impossible to try to explain what the movie's about, but it ends kind of tragically, and it has to do with racism and the South and all that stuff, and family betrayal, and kind of the weave that's going through there that we've been talking about today is nobody wanted to speak up, and many people weren't telling the truth of life and what was going on. So we use the word authentically. In the movie, one of the things to tell you about, there's a white man that's married to a black woman who's pretending to be a white woman. Nobody is being real or authentic about who they are. They're just trying to serve their tribe, whatever that is. And there was a lot of sub tribes and stuff in this movie. I highly recommend it, but it's highly painful to watch. That's why it kind of relates back to what we're talking about. At the end of the movie, the one female who's a big part of the story, named Luann or Luann, finally brings all of this stuff to light, releases the letters that were never seen and things like that. And finally the son of this marriage and so on can be released. But we use that word authenticity. I say be who you are. And it's back to what I was saying earlier. Be who you are. But that sometimes is the hardest thing in the world to do, is to say what's true, to admit what's real, and to be who you are. All of those things are hard. Aaron said, embrace the suck, and all of you have kind of mentioned do the hard things. Most of the people in this movie weren't doing. The only person that was doing what was comfortable for him suffered and lost at the end of the movie because no one else was. You know, this is, to me, as we individually try to be authentic, try to do what's real, tell the truth, find the truth, do the hard things, then collectively we can be better. Or if all of us keep avoiding it like we always have in religion, then everybody suffers, right? And that was what I got from the movie. It's a tremendously hard movie to watch.
Yeah.
I would think for everyone it would be, but anyway, it's good. It's really good. Does that make sense?
Yep.
What else do you guys have to say? I want to tell my dad joke before we get out of here, but
And then Aaron has one too.
and Aaron has one at the end.
We've already mentioned that you have one, so now you have to tell it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
All right. Oh, I could go all day with corny dad jokes.
Anyway,
Just ask my kids or my wife.
yeah. Okay, so here you go. So this guy, this lady and man were they're probably in their 50s. They were at a party. They were trying, she said, "Hey honey, why don't you go get me a glass of wine?" So he comes back with a glass of wine. She says, "You know what? I love you. I am more devoted to you than ever before. In fact, I don't know what I'd do without you." And the guy says, Is that you or the wine talking?" She said, "No, that's me talking to the wine." Aaron's trying not to laugh.
So what did Rudolph say to his wife? I think it's going to rain, dear.
Dear.
Why did Mozart get rid of all his chickens?
I don't know.
Because he got jealous because all they could do is talk about Bach.
That is a dad joke.
Oh
for sure.
boy.
I got one more. It's just a little long, but where we live, we're in the Midwest, and so there's a lot of farmers, and the farmers they used to have 80 acres, and now they have thousands of acres. So they're bigger and bigger farmers. So the two big farmers went up on the elevator here in the Midwest, and it was right on the state line of Nebraska, Missouri. And the farmer from Missouri said, "You know what? I bet I got more land than you." He said, "In fact, if you turn that way and look, all of that land is mine. As far as your eye can see, look left or right, straight ahead. It's all my land." The other guy said, "Well, that's nothing. If you look over there in Nebraska, if I were to take off driving in my pickup and drive all morning, stop for lunch at a cafe, and then keep driving after lunch, you still wouldn't be to the edge of my property." The guy from Missouri says, "I got a pickup that's just like that."
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
And on that note,
On that note, anyway. So, what's coming up for you guys? Anything? I know Kyle didn't talk about messy spirituality. You guys are doing a good job over there. Just joined the choir network, right?
Yes. I'm on a podcast with Jason Elam, and she wants to be called Lola, so we call her Lola. And just three people, kind of like we do, just talking stuff. We do some current event kind of things. It's been a little political here lately. Then we Lola has a Bible story, talking about the goodness of God. And then, I come in with my anti-everything religion side, and we have some fun. But we just joined the choir network, and it's a network of podcasts that they're just launching. So we're part of that and pretty excited. So check us out.
Cool.
Aaron is a part of Freeology Friday with Derek Day. Still going strong every Friday night. Always have something good to talk about. We're talking about self-care this week. We got to hear a little bit of it. We were pretty busy last night, but every Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Look for them live. Anything else? You're just working really hard, right?
I'm working a lot. My goal is to make a lot of money in the next few months, so I can transition to something else. But hey, I will tell you this: when the NFL schedule, I'm a big Bronco fan. When the NFL schedule came out, I bought tickets to 2 games. I was pretty sure they were home games when I bought them. and when they didn't release the tickets to you right away, right? So you didn't get the tickets till about preseason time, and I get them, and I'm like, "What is this? What are these 4 tickets to SoFi Stadium in LA, and what are these 2 tickets to Las Vegas Raiders game?" And so I bought 6 total tickets to away games. So I'll be taking a few road trips, you know.
Yeah.
Had to break it to the wife, you know, honey, I messed up. Looks like we're gonna have to go to LA for, you know, it's the kids' fall break. Well, we can spend a whole week there. So so that's what I'm looking forward to, you know. Eventually I want to get back to creating more content, but I don't have the time or energy right now.
Yeah. Got it.
So we've released the book Out in the Desert's released. It's staying up in the top 50 in that category. Still kind of going that way. I probably shouldn't tell you ahead of time, but we're going to issue the Kindle book for 99 cents starting in October. So that will help move more books, not make us any money. But that was kind of our goal of that book from the beginning, was just to let people have it. We had, had it for two years as a PDF that people could get. So our goal is, I shouldn't say our goal is not to make money, because I'm not in any way against making money and paying my bills, things like that. But more than that, we wanted people to have it. We wanted people to get it. Also, next week on Desert Sanctuary, we'll be interviewing Liz Enns Patters, who is in fact Pete Enns' daughter. She's part of the Deconstructing Mamas. So we'll be having a good conversation with her. We've already talked to Esther, her partner, about a month ago. Yep. So lots of good interviews coming up with lots of cool women. We should be hopefully back here next month about this time with these two guys. You guys got anything else to say before we put a pen in it and say we'll go home? I'm going to go to my concert.
Yeah, I appreciate this time. I love it. It's like it's therapeutic for me. So,
me too.
Good.
Me too.
I'm glad to hear that. It surprises me a little, when especially guys that have been in ministry, it surprises me when we just jump in and start talking about things that really matter. And we get kind of down deep and talk about some deep things that matter. It always surprises me, but it's also refreshing and encouraging, and like you said, therapeutic when that happens. So it's awesome.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary. We hope you find who you are as you embark on your own journey.
For all of us here at the Desert Sanctuary, be who you are, be where you are, and be at peace.